Hi there, I'm James Osborne, the co-founder of the Recruitment Network, and this is the TRN Podcast. Every week, we unpack the strategies, the technologies, the processes and mindsets fueling today's top-performing recruitment agencies. We take a look behind the scenes of some great recruitment businesses. We listen to the real-life stories of those who have built those businesses, and we learn from some of the industry's greatest thought leaders to help you become both future fit and future relevant. So let's begin with this next episode of the TRN Podcast. We're going to talk about a really interesting subject today, which is around this whole shift that we're seeing in the industry from recruiter into consultant. And it's an area that I'm just so excited about. I'm excited about it, not for any other reason apart from we've just seen so many really good successes off the back of this, we know this is really working. And I'm absolutely convinced this is the future of recruitment. And I'm convinced actually the market, because of all the things that have been going on in the market over the last couple of years, have almost like pushed our industry into this area, which is great. What will happen inevitably is some people will take this and run with it and some people won't. And I hope those of you coming on the call today will be a sort of a bit of an ignition, I suppose, to get you thinking about this and start your journey into this. As ever, I put together a bit of a slide deck, so I'm going to run you through the slide deck. I will share the slides with you afterwards, so you have a copy of this. There'll be some things we're going to talk about and share with you beyond that. So we've talked about the new consultancy model, which is, I suppose, looking at how do we rebuild recruitment companies for higher margins. I think the reality is we know the industry's changed, it's evolved, our industry will never be the same again. Not to sensationalize anything, the core basics still work, of course they do, recruitment still works and it's not going away anywhere. But just by default about what's going on in the markets, it's changing and reshaping our industry. And consequently, some, not all, recruitment companies are changing and reshaping how they run their businesses, predominantly because they want to make more money now. And I think absolutely this is the time to do so. I've been talking a lot recently, especially on social media, about the rise of the super agency. So these are smaller recruitment companies, in some cases solo operators, who are significantly profitable, offering significant value to their market sector. And part of what we're going to talk about today will show you a little bit of insight into that. But I do think this year in particular, we will see a number of these super agencies board. We're already seeing some today. I've got some great examples of that across the membership, where they're just doing really cool stuff. You know, one example, some of you know, I've talked about these guys before. They've grown their headcount month on month over the last 2 years. They're currently averaging 430k average GP per consultant. That's average, you know, across the good guys, the bad ones, and the average in the middle sort of thing. So, you know, when you get into that sort of state where you've got a business that's one person or 100 people averaging 430k, you've got some really interesting a model there, which is great. And I think this is the exciting opportunity in the market now. It's not necessarily about building increased market share. It's about actually squeezing a hell of a lot more profit out of the market share that you've already got, in essence, but at the same time winning more of this better business. Just a very quick intro to TRN, and I'll get going with the sort of what we're going to talk about. For those of you who aren't familiar with TRN, thank you for joining us today. You're welcome. We are a large network, a large community of recruitment business leaders, from solo entrepreneurs to large size organizations. And we all hang out together with our advisors, our mentors, our trainers, our coaches, and all the members to help our members ultimately maximize and improve performance, productivity, and profitability. So that's what this is all about right now. And in particular, these last couple of years, it's all about which businesses are squeezing more performance, productivity, and profitability. Okay, cool. So let's go into what we're here to talk about today, which is this sort of consultancy journey, I suppose, and what we're calling Pinnacle. If we look across the TRN community, there's a bunch of things that members are doing. There's a bunch of things that recruitment businesses are doing and sort of focusing on in 2026 in order to grow, because it's all about growth right now. A number of different things. I've just highlighted two because this sort of links into what we're sort of talking about today. So a number of agencies that are planning to launch at least one new revenue model in 2026. Over 62% of the members and the people surveyed are going to launch a new revenue model in 2026. That's really exciting. Some have already done it today. I'm going to show you examples of that in a second. And also the number of recruitment leaders who are ranking profitability over revenue as their number one metric. And that's such an important thing. You know, revenue is ultimately a vanity metric. It sounds great, but it's a vanity metric. Whereas profitability is obviously more of a real sanity metric as much as anything else. So what we're now seeing, which is great news, is that more members now, more recruitment leaders are really obsessing about driving growth in profitability rather than just growth in revenue. And this is why what we're talking about today is so important, because you could be delivering the same level of revenue but being so much more profitable moving forward. And ultimately, that's what it's all about. So we're talking about this new consultancy model. And that's going to drive higher margins and ultimately higher profitability. So, bit of a commercial reality. Typically, agencies, and this is very sweeping statements here, but most agencies tend to run between, I don't know, 16 to 22%, I would say, on contingent recruitment. You might have different, but you get the rough idea. Retained, if those of you do retains and retained search, that typically delivers more like 25 to 35% margins. Some cases a lot more. So, like the Shreks are doing a lot more than that. Although having said that, I had a meeting yesterday with one of the members. We were talking about one of the Shreks, one of the sort of the senior level executive search firms who just won a deal on 14% margin. So even the Shreks are panicking at the moment, which is extraordinary. If you're doing talent diagnostics or talent advisory work, that type of business delivers 45 to 65% margins, and there's obviously no success dependency within those margins as well. So what we're trying to get you to think about is don't stop doing recruitment. That's our core bread and butter business. And hopefully you're doing more retained stuff than you are doing contingent stuff, because that is better business. But at the same time, if you can start doing more of this advisory type stuff, then a percentage of that will significantly impact your entire business. So if between, let's say, 10 to 25% of your total revenue came from some form of consultancy service, then ultimately your overall average margin would be increasing to well over sort of 30, 35% as well. So that's the key to this. It's not about replacing what you do. It's about bolting on and adding to what you're already doing. Remember, big consultancies are charging well over 150 grand plus for data insights that you guys already have access to in real time. They are just monetizing it, packaging it, and taking it to market. So the opportunity is huge here, which is really, really exciting. So what I'm going to try and do today is explain to you how this sort of works and show you some examples of that. Those of you who are thinking of building shareholder value, so actually trying to build a business that's got some capital value that you maybe want to do some sort of capital event with at some point. If you look at the multiples over all the deals over the last couple of years, I did a sort of analysis of this. You can see the difference in multiple values based on the type of business that you're doing. So if you're doing contingent perm only type stuff, at best, even if someone is going to potentially do an acquisition of your business, at best you're going to get 3 or 4 times multiple. But if you're going down the bottom end of this list, which is where we're going to talk about today, where you're doing more of this advisory consultancy type business, then actually your multiples can increase significantly. So obviously this is all about driving more value, more profitability, more shareholder value to your business as well, based on the type of business that you are doing. And the shift is happening right now. This is not something that might come down the pipe or it sounds quite exciting, but is it really happening? It's actually happening right now. If you think about this, and I'll try to explain this in a simplistic sense, the left-hand side is what a lot of us on the call do. We do recruitment. And we sell people in this simplistic format, do a little bit of insight stuff, a little bit of diagnosis stuff, and we sort of stop there. On the right-hand side, you've got these consultancy firms who are selling transformational programs, and then going backwards towards the left, they may end up with some people stuff at the end of it type stuff. But the principle is you've got recruiters on the left-hand side and you've got talent consultancies on the right-hand side. And we're sort of selling the same version of the same thing, different versions of a sort of the same thing when you sort of think about it. And that's the opportunity here, because it creates this space in the middle that we refer to as the white space. And the white space is so lucrative at the moment if you want to basically just make more money in recruitment, be stickier, be more embedded with your customer base. So it's less about just doing recruitment supply. You're not going to try and become a full-blown consultancy. That would be probably ridiculous for many people. It's about finding that space in the middle, which is still incredibly more lucrative than you are currently on today, but it's taking market share from the consultancy firms ultimately. I refer to this as capability projects. It's a nice simple way of sort of understanding what they are. So that white space is basically full of capability projects where you've got customers who are not just looking for CVs anymore. They don't just want bodies or CVs. They want outputs, they want outcomes as much as anything else. So the real opportunities when a recruitment company can package up and deliver more of an outcome-based project to your end user clients using project-based contracts. Same rigor, same process, same people most likely as the big consultancy firms, but at a fraction of the cost. This way you can create great margins. Does that make sense? So you can understand. So I'm just trying to get you to sort of sit in that white space, do it at a cheaper cost than the consultancy firms, but in exactly the same way. What's driving these projects? Well, again, we talk a lot in recruitment about, have you got any jobs? Have you got any jobs in a simplistic sense? But actually your customers aren't sitting around every day waiting for a recruiter to phone up because they've got some jobs. They are thinking about lots of other things. And all these things you're seeing on the screen here are the things that are driving these different capability projects. So your customers are thinking right now about not just talent shortages that exist, but also about how do they upskill their existing workforce, how do they redeploy some of their people, especially in the face of AI. They're thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're thinking around employee well-being. So it goes on, and so it goes on, and so it goes on. So these projects aren't just about placing talent. It's about getting better results out of people's talent. Does that make sense as a general consensus? So put yourself in the shoes of your customers. The list here of the stuff they talk about in their board meetings. We need to be creating services and products that are going to align to what it is that they are talking about and what they therefore want. So we're going to build out some capability projects today as a principle and show you actually how easy it is to do this, and how actually some of you are probably already doing it, but you just haven't monetized it yet, which is where the immediate quick win is and the opportunity is as much as anything else. So the good thing about these things, you can scale these up and down really quickly, which is good. You get cost predictability, which is good. And generally you get access to better talent, or the customers get access to better talent as well. So if I show you a quick example of this, and some of you may have seen me talk about this before on some of the BD training, this is an example project. It's all about a business, a large organization, looking at their workforce planning strategies, their recruitment tech strategies, how they're going to redesign their processes all around hiring and people, and then roll that out across the business. And they've gone to a consultancy firm. The consultancy firm basically has put together a team of people on the left-hand side. So a project director, a project manager, et cetera, et cetera. In the orange is basically what the consultancy firm are charging those people out, all packaged together as one big project to that customer. And in the middle here, you can see the duration, which is how long those people are going to be out on site for, out working for. So that orange is the total fee the consultancy firm is charging, in this case, about £500,000. Think about it. A recruitment business could go out and hire and go and get together that exact same team, those same people on contract. You could then place them out probably at these fees that you see in the white column, which means the difference between the two is close to sort of 380 grand, 390 grand difference. So somewhere in that 390 grand difference, you can then put in your margin if you think about it. So the reality is, you can deliver exactly the same team of people to deliver the project for a much, much cheaper version, or a much cheaper cost to the consultancies, but significantly more than you're currently putting people out on site for. So this is as much about delivering projects yourselves as it is about building up a bench of talent that can go and take these to market and go and deliver these projects as well. The company I was with yesterday, we built out all their projects yesterday. We're now building out their benches of talent. So have they got all these business analysts and project managers in their particular case on a bench ready to go? And they're now going to sell these as project teams, as projects, as capability projects, all wrapped together. But they're basically just doing recruitment when you sort of think about it in a simplistic sense. And this is like statement of work, but it's statement of work, time and materials, as opposed to statement of work for output. So you're not doing the full statement of work where you're charging for the success of the actual project. You're charging for your time, or for time of hours and people who are working within that as well. Another example capability project was an organization, a recruitment company that went to a customer that were using multiple recruitment agencies. And those recruitment companies were basically being told they had to cut their spend down, reduce their average cost of hire, etc. In other words, this company was trying to get rid of recruiters within their business. And so our company went out there and said, well, actually, let's help you win that business and help you do that and help you reduce your reliance on recruitment companies. So we built this model for them. This is a dependency to interdependency model. And I won't go through into detail to this, but ultimately this allowed that company, that end user company, to reduce their average fee per placement from what was about 6,800 quid down to less than 640 quid, which is great. It allowed their internal hiring to increase. We built an internal hiring team for them that they were going to then basically own all the recruitment. Total saving for the customer was over just under 600 grand, so they're ecstatically happy, which is great. And obviously this recruitment company went in there and won the business, and this case here on a retained project fee, 18 grand times 12 months with a few success fees in there as well. So, again, it's a nice different type of business that you can go with. This makes it feel a bit complicated. It's really not when you go underneath the skin of it. And again, we're seeing this all the time. This is the WhatsApp groups and the members who WhatsApp me all the time with deals they've been closing. 6-month retained project here, 25% up front, 520,000 euros for that particular one in Holland. And this one here is a 12-month project. 20% of the fees paid as a monthly retainer, another 350 grand. These are all capability projects that our members are winning because they package it up and they're taking it to market. So we've got to build our own capability project offering. You get the principle, it's just make good sense, it's good business, and anyone can do it. Now you've got to build out your offering, how that sort of works. And again, I'm not going to go heavy on this today. This is all part of the Pinnacle program. But if you want to just in its simplistic sense to understand this, just look at your ideal customer. So who is your ideal customer, your ICP? What are their biggest talent related challenges, not just about hiring people that they're facing, or the biggest talent opportunities they also want to capitalize on? And then therefore, what sort of project style solutions could we package up and provide to them? So if in your very simple range, if you want to go down that route, then this is the easiest way to try and work out actually what your capability project menu could potentially look like. And I'll show you some examples in a second. But it's no more complicated than that in principle. Obviously, it's a little bit more harder than that to go and do it. If you need help with that, as always, we've got AI agents that we built for this. So I built a capability projects finder. So if any of you want a copy of this, just say give me a yes or a thumbs up in the chat and I'll ping it across to you. It's an AI agent I built that actually you just type in your marketplace and a location and it will actually find you capability projects that in your market. So it will show you where there are opportunities to go and win projects and this type of stuff. So nice and simple. And again, you can bastardize it and amend it to your markets in more detail, but just as an example of how these things work. So obviously let's use AI to help us with that. So how does this all come together? We're in a bit of a strategic crossroads. Client buying behavior has fundamentally changed. So clients now are thinking about outcomes, they're thinking about control, they're thinking about urgency. They're not thinking about permanent versus contract or agency versus RPO or supplier list, that type of stuff. And they may feel like it sometimes, but they're really not. What's happening in the boardrooms, they're thinking about actually how do we get measurable outcomes? How are we significantly reducing the delivery times of people coming through, and how do we have more control over the process, and but also a little bit of flexibility at the same time as well. So that's what they're sort of thinking. So our projects need to do that. So old models still prevalent today. So don't get me wrong. This is not saying don't do what you currently do today, but 25% of what you're doing, if you can do this other stuff, obviously that's the difference. Old models, perm versus contract, supplier list, CV send out, speed, volume, all that sort of good stuff. These emerging models are more about outcome delivery, strategic partnerships, risk removal, precision, but at speed, and then getting an ROI, getting sort of value. So the whole point of Pinnacle and the Pinnacle program that we've got, it's not about a diversification of doing something different. It's about an evolution of probably what you are already doing, which I'm going to show you in a second. So even though this sounds maybe in some cases, well, this is a bit heavy and it sounds a bit, great, but a bit serious. Actually, you're probably already doing half of this already, which I'll show you in a second, which is with the irony. The big consultancies are doing it. So, typically a big consultancy firm doing a diagnostic type work, they're charging anywhere between 25 to 75 grand a project. For strategy type work, between 50 to 150 grand. For transformational stuff, that can go well up to over £500,000, as we talked about. And then they have these advisory retainers ongoing between 5 to 25 grand a month sort of thing. So obviously what these consultancies are doing is they're sort of monetizing strategic thinking first, and then the delivery, the implementation, maybe the people bit comes second. Does that make sense? So, but if you think about a recruitment company, I had a conversation with someone yesterday exactly about this. What we do is we monetize the delivery piece, but we sort of give away all the strategic thinking, which is crazy when you sort of think about it, because someone else is selling it. So let's go after the bit that we deserve and be able to get. You've also got this white space trap as well. If I go back to my white space piece, in reality, if you look at how a lot of recruitment works, and don't take this in any other way apart from just a reality check for some, recruitment is quite reactive, it's quite role focused, it's quite transactional and narrow, and we know that. That's just how our industry in many cases works. If you look at talent consultancy as well, a lot of them are quite slow, they're definitely expensive. I think they're well over scoped and they're well over engineered, which is why they charge the sort of fees that they do. So our clients are actually trapped in this white space, bizarrely enough, between either having a slow, reactive, transactional recruitment supplier or an over expensive, over engineered, over scoped talent consultancy. So again, if we go back into that white space in the middle, if we can find more of a proactive recruitment supplier that also does cheaper but faster, more agile, properly engineered consultancy services, you've got this perfect storm in the middle. Your customers are asking for it, they're looking for it right now, and that's why the opportunity is created, because of this trap as much as anything else. Now, the interesting piece is actually recruiters already own a bunch of these assets already. So you don't need to go and do this from scratch. Just think about your business today. You have in your business today live market data, you've got salary intelligence, you've got hiring trend visibility, you've got candidate behavior insight, you've got exposure to what's working and what's not working, etc., etc. So you've got all of this data already. You're not really just doing much with it. The great thing about it, if you compare recruiters with consultancy firms, recruiters have the ability to provide data-driven, actionable insights from actual proprietary data that you own in real time to your market. Your consultancies that you're working against and the ones who are pitching on crazy money, they're only inferring what might be happening as opposed to with real data. There's a big, big difference between the two. So our industry is so perfectly set up for this, it's unbelievable. And you already own these assets. So again, we were talking yesterday, and I'm going to show an example of it. We're building out a data center yesterday that was basically pulling all that data that we own already every day live, and then basically repackaging it and sending it back out again to our customer base. So basically what we're doing in essence, and where you start with this, is you as a recruitment business, as a recruiter, you can pull all that sentiment data that you've got based on every single conversation that you're having every day with you across your business, with your candidates and clients. You can pull together or analyze that with market data that's going on, benchmarking data, economic data, big picture stuff. And all that comes together to then deliver a strategy, which is therefore, Mr. or Mrs. Client, what you need to be doing, thinking about, doing differently in order to be able to grow, move forward with your talent strategy. Okay, does that make sense? So this is where it all starts with this data piece at the bottom. Now you can build a recruitment data center, and I can promise you I'm saying this now in seconds, and I'm going to show you why in a second. And I'll show you an example of this, the one we actually built out. You have all of this data already. Think about every conversation you're having, every Fathom's a Zoom call or Teams call that you're having, every meeting you're having, everything that goes up onto your CRM system, etc., is data, data, data. You've got ridiculous amounts of that data on top of external data that you're pulling in from different sources as well. So imagine if you're building a data center in its inverted commas, your inputs are going to be your ATS, your CRM, emails that you're sending out, WhatsApp calls, Zoom calls, events you go to, surveys that you're running, etc., etc. All of that can now be automated. So every time it happens, it automatically gets pushed or pulled into a pot of data. And you can do that right here, right now. And it doesn't cost you any money. You then build up a data flow, which is basically then moving that data around, I suppose, is the simplest way of describing it, using an automation tool like make.com or whatever you want to use. You can then use AI to then analyze that data for sentiment, topics, insights, reports, dashboards, whatever you want to be able to do in seconds for free in most cases. You can store that data using things like Airtable or whatever you want to do. So you can then really restructure all that reporting. And then you can then produce it into really visually compelling reports using different Power BI dashboards or automation through your CRM system, etc., etc., etc. Now you look at that and you go, bloody hell, James, I'm here to be a recruiter. I just want my recruiters to go and do some deals. Absolutely fine. But if you want to build this data center out, it will drive your recruitment strategy into a completely different place that you've never been to before. We have a data center at TRN. I built it myself at one evening with a bottle of wine in front of the television. I'm not condoning watching television or drinking red wine. It does help. But if I can build this stuff in an evening, imagine what you could do if you spent a couple of days on this and did this properly. And obviously, we'll show you how to do this. So on the back of our data center, I can pull these types of reports automatically at will, live, etc., etc., which is exactly what I want to then be able to utilize and give to our members and give to other people and use in the marketplace. What you're seeing here is exactly what you can do as well. Exactly the same thing within seconds as well. Now, this is the tool I built in using AI, and this took literally I'd say probably took me about 15 minutes to build this using AI now. And it's free, didn't cost me a penny. And this is the system I used. I type a report I want to create. I plug that in, I choose where I'm going to get my data from. So is it TRN data? Is it our partners REC data? Is it the SIA? Other sources of data? I put all that into this system that we've been created using AI. That then creates the report for me, and that report then goes out and spits out in any format that I want to spit it out, and actually spits it out looking like these TRN Insights reports that you're seeing here. So these reports that we're producing for our members have been created through our data center, which took me 20 minutes to build. You can do exactly the same thing with your customer base, exactly the same thing in seconds. Just think how that changes your positioning in the market, especially whatever size business you are and whatever it is that you're doing. These are some of our members. They've already built these tools. They're using different tools to be able to do it. I've just anonymized this one here because I don't want to show you who the company is, but one of our members, this is their toolkit they do, which is all about predictive hiring analytics. Yesterday, I literally built this yesterday in about 25 minutes with one of the members I was with. This is a live toolkit that we built for them now. It shows things like attrition and retention risk, about market mapping, competitor intelligence, etc., etc. And all the data is being fed in, and it's producing this really sexy looking dashboard that they're now giving people free access to, or they're paid access to if they want to get more bespoke reports off it. all coming through a system that was free, all coming from the data that they already own. This is consultancy, the base point of consultancy 101. Because you can start doing this stuff, you can then start advising, consulting with your customers, and then starts to get really, really interesting. Does that make sense? So we're moving now up this consultancy ladder from doing pure placement to more retained relationships, to more advisory, and then ultimately potentially into transformation. Placement is what you do. Retained is what you should be doing. Advisory is what you're able to do with this data. Transformation could be a team of people on the contract that you're placing with the customer for 6 months to then take all that insights and then go and do something with it and actually implement a transformational change project or whatever it might be. Can you see where we're coming from for this? It's about getting more margin, more influence, more predictability, more stickiness, moving from being a traditional recruiter to being more of a talent consultancy. Not to overflower it, not saying you don't do recruitment anymore, but to add this on and bolt this on to how you work. It changes everything. And it just changes the fees. It changes, look, this is placement, typical recruitment, the entry point, what we do at the moment. It's not the destination, but it is the entry point. 50 to 25% fees. Let's be honest, it makes us quite replaceable. It's quite price pressured. It's quite reactive. Retained search, you're moving up that ladder a little bit more. You're moving away from just filling jobs and more towards creating outcomes and reducing risk as you go, better fees. Advisory, you're going into this talent diagnostics, this salary benchmarking. You're solving hiring problems. You're not just filling roles anymore and at much, much higher margins. And then the transformational stuff is when you offer them this talent transformational programs, putting out an interim change team or whatever it might be, proper sticky, proper recurring revenue. Does that make sense? So I want you to all to think about how you're moving up this consultancy ladder, because ultimately that's where the money is. So then you build out your menu. And again, for the sake of today, I'm just going to show you a quick example of the sorts of things that you could be selling. Now you can do this in different ways, either as like a starter, growth tier, enterprise tier. So these are our different products that we offer. Or you can just do it almost like as a menu. You think about these are all the things that you can now deliver and sell to your customers based on what you already have today. So let's start with your tier one, your core products that you could be taking to market. Some of you do this anyway: salary benchmarking, market mapping, talent diagnostics, hiring process audits, skills gap analysis, interview training, onboarding framework, ED&I mapping, and so it goes on, so it goes on, and so it goes on. And a lot of these things I've just shown you, you can now use AI to do it for you. So your cost of delivery is bugger all. Your time out of the business away from recruitment is bugger all, because you can get AI and tech to do that for you using your data and using the data center that we can just build. How do you charge for this? You can do it as a project fee. Come in and I'll do a market map for you at 15 grand. Or even better, you charge it as a recurring revenue fee. So you pay 500 quid a month or £1,000 a month, and I will do all of your salary benchmarking, market mapping, and I'll do a hiring process audit for you or whatever, like that dashboarding type feel. You imagine now, just do the numbers, whatever size business you are, imagine every recruiter, whether you're a 1-person or a 10-person business, every recruiter in your business had 10 customers paying them £1,000 a month purely to do this type of stuff. Just do the maths on that straight away and figure out suddenly now you just cover your entire cost of your desk and everything else to go with that. And that's just based on a nice simple core model. You can have advanced products. So this is where it gets a little bit more advanced, but obviously you're making more money. So you're doing workforce planning, org design advisory, competitive talent intelligence, productivity benchmarking. This becomes a little bit more mandronic. This is data plus you, a human, coming in and sitting in their boardrooms, analyzing, talking about that, finishing a project. And again, obviously you make more money out of this. And then the third part, I suppose, which is the sort of the enterprise piece, this would say tier 3, apologies. The enterprise piece is when you start looking at firms and talking about, you know, M&A talent due diligence, post-merger integration when the two companies have come together, maybe around their digital transformational hiring strategy, embedded RPO, executive assessment, and so it goes on. You can figure this out. We've got one business we're working with around global mobility advisory, so helping a company from America set up in Portugal, or a business in one country setting up somewhere else. How do you do that? How do you go there? Using EORs, getting the talent out there, etc. That's, people are paying big money for this stuff. You're just not getting it. You absolutely could. You absolutely should. Doesn't mean you have to deliver it all. It means you could have a bench of people on contract who can deliver it for you, even better. That's highly scalable, but you get the idea behind it. Okay, cool. Net margin comparisons, sort of fairly obvious. What we're trying to do is move up that food chain. So we want to get our contingency up to embedded as much as we can, advisory, etc., etc. This is what I refer to as the pinnacle moment. Again, do percentages. If you sat down in 12 months' time and 50% of your business was contingency, 25% was retained, and the rest was the stuff below it, your average net margin across your business will be well into the 30%. Whereas at the moment it might be something like 16 to 18%. That's the pinnacle moment that you need to think about. And another example of that, if you've got a business, a recruitment company turning over 3 million quid, running around about 18%, doing about a 540k profit. After you've layered in, consultancy business, a percentage of their business being consultancy, their profits increasing by a good 200, in this case 240k, a quarter million quid. And that's without increasing any headcount. That's the pinnacle moments that we're talking about here. Think about valuations. If you are looking to sell your recruitment company down the track or create more shareholder value, recruitment typically 4 to 6 times EBIT, consultancy 7 to 10 times EBIT. Two identical businesses, recruitment companies, both with £500,000 EBIT. One typical recruitment might get valued at 2.5 million. One who's doing a lot of consultancy work, sticking in bed, he might get valued at 4 million. Quite a big difference there, because buyers are paying for predictability, recurring revenue, this IP and proprietary data, reducing that dependency on individual billers, more influence within their markets and more stickiness within their markets as well. Just by the way, all those 6 bullet points there are things that run and make a really bloody great recruitment company anyway. Even if you aren't going to try and sell it, you just want to build a great business. That's the pinnacle moment again. So how I've described it is, hopefully it makes sense. So you've got a core recruitment engine. What we do day to day today. This is not a diversification. This is a bolt-on. We do recruitment today. Do it better. Carry on doing it. That's what recruiters do. We're not shifting from that. That gives you access to your customers and to your markets. We're then going to start thinking about workforce augmentation, which is some of that data stuff that we sort of talked about. That allows you to scale up revenue. And then that strategic value layer is that last piece, which is really driving up the margins and driving up the valuation. So ultimately, the smart recruitment companies, those super agencies I talked about, will be the ones that will be offering 2 or 3 of what you're seeing on the screen here, and trying to get as much percentage as possible up towards the top, towards the pinnacle, which is where the biggest profit is and the biggest growth opportunities are. It's not complicated. But it does require a bit of a mindset shift within your business, within your recruiters as well. It's not about becoming consultants. I'm not suggesting we all become consultants now. You can outsource that heavyweight consultancy stuff to your bench of consultants that you've already brought on in your marketplace. But it's about monetizing your data, monetizing those insights that you've got as an additional component of what you're already doing in your talent solution. So let's stop saying we can fill X, Y, and Z roles for you, and start saying we can unlock growth across your entire talent ecosystem, from attraction to retention to engagement, which would include people placement, but other stuff as well. It's the same expertise you've got, just a different packaging, and therefore a very different margin, as we've sort of proven today. So this is how you move from being a supplier to a partner to a category leader within your market. 18% margins moving towards 30% plus market margins. And all you're doing ultimately is packaging and pricing up the expertise that you actually already deliver every day. And in a meeting I had yesterday, every time we talked about the stuff we could be selling, we kept talking about how we're already giving that away for free at the moment, which is insane when you think about it. So that's how the Pinnacle concept works. Obviously, if you're interested in the full Pinnacle program, now you've heard about what I'm talking about, just give me a yes or a thumbs up in the chat, and I'll get that stuff shared with you when we go live with it very shortly, and we'll show you actually how to really take this to market properly. Obviously, I'm just trying to share with you the principles today, and hopefully get you excited about it as well, because a big part of this is getting excited about where the market is going. I think it's a really exciting time. I think if you're waking up tomorrow going, we're just going to carry on doing classic recruitment that we've always done, I think it's going to be another interesting year, and it might be quite hard work. I think if we can move forward, if we can move forward by building out more of this Pinnacle consultancy type service alongside everything else that we're doing, then I think it becomes really interesting. And if there are any of you on the call today who are solo entrepreneurs, the really cool thing about this is where a solo entrepreneur can behave like a 10-person recruitment company, still being one person, using AI, using all the stuff that we've shown, etc., etc. Okay, cool. Hope that made sense. Just so I know it makes sense, because I haven't delivered this particular session before, just give me a yes or a thumbs up if you enjoyed today or it makes sense. And it's not my ego stroking. I just want to make sure it worked for you. That was all, which is good. As always, if you're a member of TRN, you want me to come do a one-to-one with you, we'll build out your
products. I'll show you how to build the tech out. I'll build the actual data centers for you, because I love all this type of stuff. There's no problems at all. Very, very happy to do so. We're happy to build out your go-to-market strategy with these as well. Remember, you sort of already got the clients, which is great. The clients are already spending money on this type of stuff. It just happens to be with other people. Let's go and get that business that we deserve. And then suddenly we can be more profitable than we were yesterday, which is good. You do that whilst increasing your sales and your client volume. You're now more profitable and bigger, making more money. What's not to like about that? It doesn't even matter what the bloody market is up to. It's irrelevant. We're too busy taking market share from what already exists. Okay, very good. Lovely to see you as always. If any of you want to get involved with TRN, just come reach out to us, and we'd love to work with you directly. And as always, those of you who are members, carry on doing what you're doing. Have a fantastic rest of the day, have a fantastic rest of the week. There's still a few days left to kill February before we start heading into that sort of March run into Easter. So have a fantastic rest of the week, and look forward to catching up on the next session or in one of the member meetups. All right, take care, everyone. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the TRN podcast. Thank you for listening. And make sure you grab the free episode toolkit. All the links are in the description. And click follow in your podcast app so you can get notified of our next episode. If you want to get more out of your business and your people, then please unlock 30 days from our platform, TRN World, for free. And help yourself to all our training content, our guides, our templates, and peer insights. You can get started at trnworld.com/trial. And finally, if you found this episode of the TRN podcast of use, please share it with your network and tag TRN on any socials with your takeaways. Otherwise, message us directly if we can help in any way. We do reply to every question. Otherwise, we'll see you next week on the next TRN podcast.